Is this the future? Funny, huh? Yeah, it's such a relief that we humans learned a lesson from the insane Cold War era and put an end to all this testing of nuclear arms. Now we can just have a good laugh at how crazy we used to be. Now, in case you were wondering, Split Second was not filmed anywhere near the actual Nevada nuclear test site. Exteriors were shot in Mojave, California, about 50 miles east of Bakersfield, and the ghost town scenes were staged at the RKO Ranch in Encino. In truth, Victor Mature and Jane Russell were susceptible to more radioactive danger making the Las Vegas story on location than were the cast and crew of Split Second. Ironically, a few years later, Dick Powell would direct The Conqueror in Snow Canyon Park, Utah, downwind from one of America's most active test sites, Yucca Flats, Nevada, where 11 above-ground tests were conducted in 1953 alone. And after location shooting, contaminated soil was also transported back to Hollywood, so exteriors done on sound stages would perfectly match. The Conqueror has become notorious for having so many of its cast and crew die of cancer, including stars John Wayne, Susan Hayward, Agnes Moorehead, and Pedro Armendariz, as well as Powell himself, only 7 years after he'd made the film. Now, it's debatable whether or not it was radioactive fallout that left more than 90 of the film's 220-person cast and crew infected with cancer. Frankly, it's more likely that lifetimes of cigarette smoking did the trick. But steadily rising cancer rates among citizens of St. George, Utah, who call themselves downwinders, have kept this controversy very much alive. Now, as for my teaser before the film about one of the cast members being an actual ex-con, that would be Paul Kelly, who played the wounded fugitive Bart Moore. His real-life story is beyond film noir. Now, Kelly had been a stage and silent screen actor since childhood, and in the mid-1920s he became close friends with husband and wife actors Ray Raymond and Dorothy McKay. And over time, Kelly and McKay became very close friends, much to the chagrin of Ray Raymond. And it all came to a head on April 16, 1927, when Raymond and Kelly, both drunk, engaged in a vicious brawl at Raymond's house. Dorothy McKay returned home to find her husband on the floor unconscious and Kelly passed out nearby. Her terrified young daughter, Valerie, had witnessed the whole thing. Now, McKay sent Kelly home and put her husband to bed. He never woke up. The trial was a scandalous sensation. Kelly's love letters to McKay were splashed across front pages, and the actor's houseboy, yes, he had a houseboy, testified that Kelly and McKay were indeed lovers. In the end, both Kelly and McKay were found guilty. He got 10 years for manslaughter, and she pulled a 1 to 3 year jolt for withholding evidence of a crime. And they were both shipped off to San Quentin. Now that's where the film noir version would end, but this is a story stranger than fiction. Kelly proved to be a model prisoner. He was released after 25 months in stir and immediately returned to New York to resurrect his acting career. Dorothy McKay served 10 months, during which time she wrote a stage play, which would become the basis for a 1933 Barbara Stanwyck vehicle, Ladies They Talk About, made again in 1942 as Lady Gangster. It gets better. After their release, Kelly and McKay reunited, and they were married in 1931. Kelly adopted Valerie Raymond and by all accounts became a loving stepfather to the little girl who'd watched him beat her father to death. In 1940, Dorothy McKay died from injuries suffered in a car accident. Paul Kelly remarried and enjoyed a robust Hollywood career, becoming a familiar face in film noir. He no doubt savored the role he landed right after making Split Second. In Duffy of San Quentin, Kelly had the title role, warden of the prison where 26 years earlier he'd been a convict. 2 years later, in 1956, Paul Kelly died, not from irony, but from a heart attack. ending one of the most unusual Hollywood stories ever. Now, if you can't get enough of these sinister backstories, you should join the Noir Alley conversations on our Facebook and Twitter pages. Remember, this is our first show in what's now traditionally known as Noirvember, the perfect time of year to share your obsessions with like-minded fanatics. Now, next week, a family favorite. Wait, did I just suggest a noir fit for the whole family? I must be suffering the latent after effects of radioactive fallout. Got a light?